Param type versus D type. Introduction. Both param type and D type are variables used in clinical trial datasets to indicate how a value was derived or how it should be interpreted. Now today I'm going to discuss with some few real world scenario examples to explain what is the difference between param type and D type. Param type in ADAM. Param type stands for parameter type and is an ADAM variable, not an SDTM one. It tells you how the param was derived, right? Now the common values for param type are derived, then calculated, how it was calculated based on the formula, interpolated, like as to what were the time points that were considered, baseline, whether it requires a baseline measurement, endpoint, whether it's a study endpoint, last is the last available value, right? So param type usually have these many common values. Now say for example in ADAM BDS structured dataset for ADLB, I have this unique subject ID 1001. The param is glucose and change from baseline, right? Now this is the parameter. Now this glucose value 95 is nothing but my baseline value. Now if I am calculating the change from baseline, it is quite obvious that it has been derived, right? So the value minus baseline value. So the answer is 10. That is the reason it has mentioned param type as derived. Now the original measurement might come from SDTM LB, and in ADAM we usually derived change from baseline, or say for example percentage change from baseline, right? Now the change from baseline is derived in ADAM, hence the param type is equal to derived. So this is what I explained. D type in SDTM and ADAM. In SDTM it indicates how a record was derived versus collected. Collected is different and derived is different. Collected means, like say for example I have an age. So if I ask a particular person what is your age, that person will say number, right? Derived is nothing but, like say for example I am calculating the age of that particular person. So I need when that person got into this clinical trial study. So I have the screening date, that is the first date that the patient entered into the clinical trial, and I have his date of birth. So date of birth and the date of screening, you can use these two dates and you can create a formula for calculating the age. So that is called as derived. Collected is something like you just ask that person and that person says a specific age. Now in ADAM it's similarly explains how value was imputed or derived, right, in a row level record. Now the common types for D type stands for derivation type. So here LOCF is there, BOCF is there, that is the baseline observation carried forward, then the multiple records, interpolated, and the mean. So like say for example if a particular value is missing, I will take the mean of a specific bunch of data and I will replace that missing from mean of multiple values. Likewise we have this last observation carried forward, then we have baseline observation carried forward, then derived records and value for interpolated. Now say for example I am having a particular subject 1001, week 4 is 120, but its week 6 value was not measured. So the week 6 value was not measured, hence the LOCF was carried forward from week 4, right? Hence the value at week 6 is 120, right? Same case with the systolic blood pressure is imputed using LOCF, hence the D type is equal to LOCF here. Same goes with systolic BP, and the diastolic BP was collected directly. Now this record was corrected directly from the CRF, hence its D type is blank. Param type versus D type. Now in this particular table I'll try to explain here the param type. It usually applies into the ADAM, which is at the parameter level. D type it usually applies in both SDTM and ADAM because it is collected as well as derived. So it is represents the record or the row level, and in param type it represents the parameter level, right? It indicates how the param was derived, right? So in this particular case, we don't see any LOCA for certain things, but we see whether it has been derived or not derived. Now D type says how the eval row was derived, right? The common values are derived, baseline and the endpoint, whereas in D type it is LOCF, mean and interpolated. Now the example dataset where param type is used is ADSL, ADLBE and ADVS, whereas the D type is usually used in ADVS, ADBS wherever there is a BDS structure. In SDTM domains also you can use especially the LOCF if you are trying to calculate. Summary. Imagine you are tracking body weight in a weight loss study. Param type tells you what kind of weight measurement this is. Now say for example in a specific CRF, you are collecting the actual weight of a body, right? So since you are collecting that data and since you are collecting the actual value, the param type is no param type. Now what is the baseline weight of that specific patient? So in that scenario, your param type is baseline. Now if I'm calculating the change from baseline or percentage from baseline, so in those scenarios the param type is equal to derived, since because you are calculating something and you are doing the difference from baseline. Now D type tells you how the value was filled in. Now say for example, understand this scenario, you have a clinical monitoring site and at that particular site there are some monitoring people who they collect the data. Now that person collected the data weight as so and so number. So since the weight was measured on the site, that's the reason the DTAP is blank. Now say for example, at the specific another visit at week 8, the weight is missing, right? So what I do is I carry forward this week 8 value from week 6. Hence the DTAP is equal to LOCF. So it's a very clear distinction here where this values contains baseline, no param type or derived, and D type is nothing but wherever your last observation carried forward or BOCF or some kind of imputation methods, whatever that you use, you present that in D type. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment mentioning any topic that you want me to make a video. Looking forward for a positive response. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment. Many thanks for your support and having great connection.